name's Stephanie. I'm with 9 Health, and I'm here with Kinsey Self, who's an MNT, medical nutrition therapist. And we're going to talk today about things that are good for your brain, things that are good for mental health that you should be eating. So nutrition is a pillar of prevention, which 9 Health is all about prevention. And you can get a free nutrition screening at a 9 Health Fair. There's 3 more going on this weekend. Go to 9healthfair.org. They're in Thornton and Fort Collins. So you can get a nutrition screening there. You can also get a mental health screening, a stress screening. So that's also another good screening too.
It's worth doing.
Right.
It's definitely worth doing.
So Kinsey's with Progressive Health and Wellness, and she's kind of an expert in all things nutrition, mental health. She's going to show us a good recipe that we're going to make that is good for our brains. But first, just give us an overview about how nutrition and mental health are connected.
Yeah, definitely. So to get into that, the best place to start is talking about the gut-brain connection. So these 2 organs actually share a lot of similarities and are in constant communication with each other. So one always impacts the other and vice versa. Okay. So there's a few things, it's worth talking about the few things that they have in common. One, they have a very robust immune system. And I'm bringing this up for a reason. Especially when we're talking about mental health, this is a really big component of it.
And it's Mental Health Awareness Month.
It is Mental Health Awareness Month.
All these reasons we're talking about this.
Yeah, totally. And I'm so excited to talk about it too because I feel like it's such an underserved population.
Right.
And there's so much that can be done from a natural perspective.
Right.
So, going back, gut-brain connection, 3 things that these 2 organs have in common that really kind of builds a foundation for when we start talking about how food specifically impacts brain health. So, robust immune system, especially from an intestinal point of view. Most people, when they hear intestines, they think about digestion and absorption and assimilation and elimination, which is great. Yes, it does that. But we also house 70 to 80% of our immune system in the intestines. And similarly to the brain, the brain has a very active and very sensitive immune system. So these 2 organs also, to kind of protect both the body and the brain, they have the second similarity, which is a very tightly bound barrier system. So in the intestines, we refer to that as the intestinal lining. It's nothing really fancy. It's the intestinal lining. Yeah. In the brain, we refer to it as the blood-brain barrier. Okay. And they have similar functions in the sense that the intestinal lining is supposed to be very tightly bound to keep everything out of the rest of the body, keep it in the lumen of the intestines, unless it is selectively escorted, or in other words, absorbed, across the intestinal lining into the rest of the body. Right. Okay. Brain, same thing. The brain tissue is very, very sensitive. So to protect the brain, obviously we have the skull, but then we also have the blood-brain barrier, which is made up of astrocytes and capillaries. So the blood-brain barrier keeps, again, everything out unless it is escorted in. Now, from that perspective, when we start to get into food, or actually I should say also, the last thing that these two organs have in common is a really intricate nervous system. Right. So again, just like we think of the intestines for digestion and absorption, we think of the brain, we think of nerve cells, but our second brain lives in the intestines. So it's just as neurologically active as the brain. And that's how these 2 organs are kind of like teenage girls. Okay. They're always talking. They're connected. Exactly. Yeah, they're connected. So with that, if one is having troubles, the other is also going to have issues and vice versa. Almost everything is a 2-way street. So from that perspective, food is one of the most direct impacts that we can have on both intestinal health and on brain health. Okay. And food, the thing about food is it's not only what you eat, it's also what you do not eat. Food can be our, food can be our strongest form of medicine or slowest form of poison. Yeah,
we did a whole series on culinary medicine and what different foods can do for different conditions, diabetes, heart conditions. We talked about the MIND diet, which was kind of very, very heavy for Alzheimer's prevention and things like that. So so we've kind of discussed, the power of food. We all know we should be eating healthy. I know you said you have like the top 3 things we shouldn't be eating, the top 3 things we should be eating to help our brains, help our mental health. What are those?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So the top 3 worst things to be eating goes back to that immune response. It goes back to how it affects the intestinal lining. If it makes it more permeable, then we're going to have issues because things are leaking through inappropriately. Trans fats.
And for those that don't know, like when they're looking at their food, what's a trans fat?
Yeah, trans fats come from any kind of hydrogenated oil. So sometimes on labels, on nutrition facts labels, it'll say trans fat free, but that's kind of a misregulation because it's only trans fat free if it's 0.5 grams or less. So you can still have trans fats. If it says hydrogenated oils in the ingredients list, they're there.
Okay.
Not to mention overheating your oils at home. So cooking high heat with oil, that will turn into a trans fat.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
They impact our brain's size. They literally shrink brain volume. They interfere with our brain's ability to create energy, and the brain creates a lot of energy. And they interfere with neuronal transmission, so our brain's ability to communicate with itself.
Okay, so no trans fats. Do we have a question?
No trans fats.
Okay, I thought Kat was waving her hand. Kat's behind the
Cool.
camera. You let us know if you have any questions on Facebook Live, and we will ask Kinsey, and she has all the answers.
Join us. The second food
yes.
would be sugar. So sugar gets a lot of
we
variety.
all know we shouldn't be eating a lot of sugar.
We all know sugar.
Yes.
Yep, exactly.
But it's addictive.
It is addictive. It's literally addictive.
Right.
There's been studies showing it's 600 times more addictive than cocaine even. It's very addictive. So that is a real thing for all you sugarholics out there. But really, sugar not only, again, does it degrade the intestinal lining by feeding our bad microbiome or bugs in the microbiome, it also stimulates the immune system in the brain.
Okay.
And the brain's
In a negative way.
In a negative way, yeah. And that's really the connection to mental health is when we're stimulating the immune response in the brain, the activation of the immune system, just like, there's sharpshooters and shotgun shooters is what they're using to eliminate any kind of pathogen in the brain, that our innocent nerve cells get caught in the crossfire. And when our nerve cells are injured, damaged, or killed, then we can manifest psychiatric conditions. Okay. So depending on where in the brain this is happening determines what condition manifests.
Okay, so limit trans fats, limit sugars.
Yep,
What's
and
our
then
third one?
the last one, and we might get a lot of kickback on this one, but I'm gonna say it anyways, is gluten. So gluten, the reason why is because it upregulates intestinal permeability, so it just paves the way for invasion, and then it does the same thing to the blood-brain barrier, and it's a direct trigger to our brain's immune system. So I hope we get a lot of activity on that, a lot of questions, because I'll chime in and keep answering.
With gluten specifically, and any of them, are there people that are more sensitive to some effects and less sensitive? Because maybe that's kind of a balance too. Like,
totally.
Sure, sometimes you can have that Snickers bar or have gluten or whatever, but just not all the time.
Yeah. So in gluten-sensitive individuals, this will be a lot more noticeable.
Okay.
Gluten upregulates intestinal permeability in everyone. There's a lot of research showing that, and the zonulin, and it gets all techie. But anyways, but yes, gluten-sensitive individuals will notice that a lot more. But then, for prevention measures, like you said, just reduce it, become aware of the sources, things along those lines.
Right, just balance a little bit, not so much indulging.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, gluten's thrown around a lot. Give us an example of like foods with gluten.
Good question. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So gluten is in the obvious sources: grains, pastas,
grains,
thanks.
In your brain, it's hated a lot, but yes, grains.
Totally, yeah. Grains, pastas, breads, cookies. It's a protein in wheat, rye, teff, kamut, random grains.
Oh, okay.
Other random grains.
Okay.
Barley. There's the other big one I was
know
looking
those
for. Yeah. So it's a protein in certain grains, but it's changed a lot. So it's not, gluten and wheat are not the same things that we've been eating for thousands of years. It's been changed a lot.
Right, more processed.
It's more processed, and so that's what leads to problems.
Okay.
And so the obvious sources, but then there's not so obvious sources like soy sauce and different sauces, and so just read labels is the biggest thing. And at restaurants, ask questions, and that's the biggest.
Or
thing.
maybe restaurant nights the night it's your balance.
Yeah, right.
It's where you're like, okay, I can have that.
Totally.
So then the 3 best foods. We talked about the things you should be doing, but what things should we be eating? And we'll make this recipe in a moment. It's a granola recipe, so it's very simple, fun, easy.
Totally. Yeah, so the 3 best foods. So the brain is 60% fat, so that kind of gives you an idea. Mm-hmm. I'm going to start, before we talk about fat, because we're going to go there in a second, I'm going to start with brightly colored fruits and vegetables.
Which was kind of the mind diet too when we had talked about that. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Brightly colored means high in antioxidants. Plants produce colors to protect themselves. We eat them, we get those benefits. So berries, as mentioned before, berries are fantastic. Deeply colored fruits like some grapes and like blueberries and things along those lines. Vegetables, again, a spectrum of color. Green, orange, like leafy greens, peppers, sweet potato, carrots, tomatoes, things along those lines.
And the sugars in fruits are okay. I know when people are on some particular diets, they'll avoid fruit because of the sugar in fruits, but is that an okay thing if it's a natural source of sugar?
Yeah, fruit is fine. The thing with fruit, just don't overdo it. 4 or 5 servings of fruit is excessive.
Right.
1 to 2, fantastic. 1 to 2 servings per day is great of fruit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Serving being like a handful of raspberries or something.
Yeah, exactly. Cup of berries, medium-sized apple, medium-sized banana, orange.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
What other 2 food categories should we be eating more?
Going down, chowing down on? Yeah. So next we get into fat. And fat is a huge component for brain health. Specifically, EPA and DHA, so our omega-3 fatty acids, in their activated form. So we get that from fatty fish, right? Okay. Salmon, tuna, sardines. There's plant-based sources. It comes in alpha-linoleic acid, so ALA, flaxseed, chia seeds, things along those lines. Those are fantastic. And then I'll also say, as far as fats goes, just healthy fats like monounsaturated fat, olive oil, avocado, things along those lines are all fantastic for brain health. Okay. So really and truly a whole foods diet is really what it comes down to. Quality, as much organic as possible, and a varied diet rich in fruits and vegetables and, grass-fed, grass-finished beef and fish
and as much organic as possible, just because it's closest. They're like, why as much organic as possible? Because you might get feedback on
that. Yeah, totally. Yeah, just trying to control our exposure to different toxins. Okay. Right. We live in a sea of them at this point, and that's there's nothing we can do about that. Right. But we can control what we put in our body, and if we minimize our exposure to toxins, then it'll always help. Okay. It'll always be beneficial.
So what's number 3 that we should?
3 would be, I'm going to actually say it goes back to not just what we eat, but when we eat. Okay. Intermittent fasting is really, really great for the brain. So super easy to do. No, I do not mean 3-day fasts. Right. I mean just changing the timing by which you eat. So going minimum of 12 hours between, overnight, largely while you sleep, so between dinner and breakfast. And then working up to 13, 14, up to 16 hours in between dinner and breakfast in particular. That activates a lot of healing and repair mechanisms.
Okay, I was going to ask, how does that help the brain?
Yeah, totally. So it activates, specifically there's a pathway called mTOR that is it's a healing and repair mechanism. So it helps break down our old degraded proteins and recycle them to build new functional proteins. Okay. So if you think of it like a city, we don't always want to be in build mode, right? We got to go in and repair old buildings and things along those lines. Roads, same concept applies to really any organ in the body, but the brain is particularly sensitive to this.
And we're probably a lot of us are doing that anyway. You sleep 8 hours, 7, 8 hours, hopefully. A lot of us don't get enough sleep either, but then you wake up and for a couple hours maybe you haven't eaten. So you're getting close to that fasting.
Exactly.
Anyway.
It's easy to do. Yeah. And you can move that window too. So if you have a party the night before, just move it and wait until you eat a little bit later the next day. So it's really easy to incorporate, but it has profound global benefits.
Okay, let's get to making something. I promise, we're doing all these fun things over here. So
we are.
Be crunching up nuts and making a beautiful granola. So tell us what we're making and why these ingredients are good for us.
Cool. So it goes back to fat, right? Healthy fat feeds the brain.
So this is our fat. We're using coconut oil, which I've heard good and bad things about coconut oil.
I know. There was a whole coconut oil is going to kill you thing that came out a while ago. No, coconut oil is fantastic.
Okay.
It
so
really
it's still a good fat for us.
Still a good fat.
I picked up all these ingredients last night at my local King Supers, so you can find these easily in any grocery store. Super easy. And I actually, full disclosure, all the ingredients, we'll post these on 9news.com and 9healthfro.org, the recipe later, and I'll link that in the comments. But the recipe had sea salt in it, and instead, I guess not really instead, but I had trouble finding raw sunflower seed kernels that didn't have salt on them, and raw pumpkin seeds that didn't have salt on them. So that's our salt in this recipe because we're not going to add salt.
One less step.
So I'm sure it's delicious with those salted
sunflower
seeds and salted pumpkin seeds.
Totally.
All right, so yes, explain.
So we're making a paleo granola, and what that means is it's grain-free.
Okay, and that's paleo.
That's paleo. Okay. Yeah, that's the paleo part of it. So it's grain-free, and it's just a nut and seed base with some coconut oil, coconut flakes, cinnamon, and vanilla. So super easy to make, but it's tasty and it's a nice change up from just regular, plain almonds or plain nuts.
Yeah.
Something else that you can do. So we have it all pre-measured out here, but the recipe provided has all of the specific measurements. And it's very simple.
So I don't know how exactly you measured that, Kat. Did you measure?
No.
No, okay. So we didn't really measure.
Gosh.
We just kind of made it look cute in these bowls. So we have measuring spoons, though. We can do the exact measurements.
We can't do it anymore.
Well, I think last night when I made it, I halved the recipe. So, but we can just dump all these things in and kind of show
how easy it is.
So, and this is the cashews and the almonds.
Yep.
Are these another good fat, right, in nuts? Or is that?
It is. Yep. Polyunsaturated fatty acids. Cashews even have some monounsaturated.
Okay.
So a bunch of different kinds of fatty
raw
acids.
almonds, raw cashews.
Yoink.
Into a blender, food processor. I used a mini little food processor last night, so
Totally. Yeah.
easy to crunch up.
Smaller the better. Easier the better. Sunflower seeds we have here. These are the salted ones she was talking about before.
Yeah, the recipe calls for raw, but
either one.
we did our best.
And then we have pumpkin seeds here.
Yeah, it said on the recipe, pepitas are pumpkin seeds. Pepitas are like the little smaller.
Yep, they're the ones without the white shell.
Right.
So if you crack open the white shell, pepitas are just inside. Okay. Yeah, either one works though. Dump those in. And then we've got coconut flakes, unsweetened coconut flakes. Fantastic.
Which I thought I'd have a really hard time finding, but they were in the baking aisle, so.
Nice.
They were not that hard to find.
Dump that in. And then we start by pulsating this just a little bit, just to kind of crunch it up.
So, loud noises.
Yep, here it comes. Okay, that should be nice. Then we take a bowl, mixing bowl, put everything in here. And we'll add in a 1/4 cup of,
Which I think we need a little spoon.
olive oil or coconut oil.
I'll just use this teaspoon to get stuff out of here.
Yeah, that'll work.
So we'll spoon in some coconut oil, and we're gonna microwave this.
Mm-hmm.
If I can get it out of here. Because my little measuring cup I know does not fit in this. I tried to do that last night. Oh, it almost comes out like little ice cream scoops with this little thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Semi-exact measurement.
There we go.
And I'm not sure if this
We should. I know. We're just gonna demonstrate.
Christine,
nice.
we're in Nine Health employee Christine's kitchen. Is this bowl okay, Christine, for microwave? Okay, we're gonna microwave this coconut oil.
There we
Well, I
go.
got the bowl ahead of time. We're just gonna do it on a whim.
Yeah.
So it's coconut oil and then.
Yep. Coconut oil. We've got vanilla. It's 1 teaspoon.
Yes. Like I brought the measuring device, so.
I'll add that in right here.
Oh, okay. I thought last night I'd microwave this with it.
Either one.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, I don't know if it matters, but.
That works too.
How long in the microwave?
I would start with like 12 seconds.
Okay.
See how that goes?
12 seconds.
12. Not
Very
10, not 15.
exact.
Just do express and then count.
Express.
Yeah.
And then count.
Yeah.
From 30.
Well, yeah.
And while she's microwaving, we can add in cinnamon. So it calls for a teaspoon. I just eyeball it. So just do a douse of cinnamon to flavor. And then if we didn't have salted nuts, we would also add a little bit of sea salt here. You can add the sea salt at the end. You can add it in here. Either one. That's kind of the beauty of this. Is it's very, very relaxed. All right. It looks like we've got the coconut oil.
It's not completely liquid. Is that take a little
close?
longer?
Maybe a little bit longer. Until then, we're gonna stir.
Looks amazing.
Right? I know, it's really good. And granola in the store is often, it can be kind of expensive. So it's nice to make your own. You can make big batches of it. And then just have it on hand. That's the nice, like one of the hallmarks of nutrition is, and this is something I talk with my clients about, is having food on hand, because you never know what you're going to run into. If you're going to end up, out at a meeting and you have to skip lunch, and then before you know it, it's been 6 hours before you've eaten and you're starving, and that is when mistakes can happen.
All right, so just dump
Add
this
that
on in there.
Perfect.
Coconut oil.
And then we stir.
Those are just some tough almonds. When I made it last night, those almonds did not want to crunch up very good. But
Right?
I'm okay with big almonds in my granola.
I know. And that's a Vitamix. And those things get it done.
So yeah, those are just some really
Alright.
raw, unsalted almonds. Really tough.
Really tough. Okay, then we pour it onto a baking dish. Just get parchment paper, baking dish. Spread it out here. Kind of crunch it together a little bit. Spread it out. Just like that.
Easy.
And then...
And I didn't time us. This is probably, I'm taking like 5 minutes,
Yeah,
6
totally.
minutes to make this whole thing.
Super easy. And then we come over here and
We will have preheated to 275. So it's
Yes.
preheated to 275.
put it in the oven.
And I think it was
And then-
20 minutes to bake it.
Like magic.
And then it comes out like this.
Ah.
And this is the toasted one, the roasted one, whatever we want, a baked one. So then what would you eat with it? Would you just eat it like this? Would you put some milk on it? Would you put yogurt with it?
All of the above.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Some berries?
Some berries, fantastic.
Okay,
Yeah, totally.
cool.
I mean, honestly, I just sit there and like go to town on it.
I mean, I'm gonna try it now because I didn't try last
Yeah,
night.
yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, it's good.
It's delicious.
Very good. And I might have sprinkled a lot of cinnamon on as well because it's delicious.
I know. I love cinnamon too.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, do
Yeah.
you have any questions on Facebook?
There you
I'm kind of
go.
ignoring you, just making this in this kitchen and eating.
Yeah.
If there are any questions, you can post them here, and I can send them to Kimsey, and she'll answer them. I'll put the recipe on 9news.com and 9healthfair.org. Post some links in the comments a little bit later. But I think that's it.
I think that's it.
And she's going to be on at 4 o'clock as well, 4:15 on the 4 p.m. show on 9
Yeah.
News. So you can tune in and watch it again if you want to.
Totally. Come catch us there.
But yeah, I think that we will
Yeah.
sign off. Again, there are 3 health fairs this weekend in Thornton and Fort Collins. You get a free nutrition screening. You can get a free stress screening. The 2 things we talked about today, mental health and nutrition. Both pillars of prevention and of 9 Health Fair. So
So
get
true.
out there and go to health fair, 9healthfair.org. And we will see you there.
Yay. Thanks for joining.